Welcome to Your Neighbor's Faith. I'm John Paulson. I'm joined today via Zoom by Deach Cook, State's Attorney for Gerald and Buffalo counties. He's also a singer-songwriter. In fact, just last year, he was inducted into the South Dakota Country Music Hall of Fame for a gospel CD entitled, Who Can This Be? Name is Deach, you have sort of a long gospel thing going on. What attracted you to the field of law?
Well, it kind of fits with my personality in a lot of ways. It allows me to interact with people, which I really enjoy most of the time, and it allows me to express some of my more artistic sides. Part of practice of law is, in a lot of ways, theater, and I enjoy doing that as well as the legal research and those things that go in behind that. But it just gives me an opportunity to work with people and express myself. And, you know, there's a lot of freedom in the particular route that I've taken with the practice of law to kind of set my own goals and where I want to go with my practice. So that's another part I enjoy.
So what are some of the biggest challenges involved in your profession?
Well, from the nuts and bolts perspective of it, it's keeping on track. Keeping up with the work, staying organized, as my wife would tell anybody. That's not an easy task for me. So that's a big challenge on that side of it. The other side of it is that interaction with people. Oftentimes, people that come to attorneys are not there because they want to be, and a lot of times they're not there by any means in the best part of their life. They are going through great difficulties, or maybe they found themselves in a very serious situation, or maybe a great loss, and they're seeking my advice at that point. And so that becomes a challenge in order to kind of balance that and not let that get to you too much, and not. It's easy to, with some people, to want to shut them out, but that's really the last thing they need at that point in their life.
You're also a musician. So what's been the greatest inspiration for your music?
Well, a lot of inspirations come in. My parents were a great inspiration in my music. They did a lot of encouragement to me. They were both musically inclined as well. Life in general is a big inspiration to me. When I write music, I tend to try to do something that tells a story from perhaps a little bit different perspective. For instance, on my CD, it's entitled "Who Can This Be?" and the title track to that album, that CD, was written in my mind from the perspective of the disciples. They're going about their daily lives, their normal occupations, or whatever it may be, and some guy walks up to them and says, "Drop what you're doing and follow me." And it's just like, what was going through their minds at that time? What was it that he saw in them that he knew they would follow him? All of those kind of things I explore in that song a little bit, and that's one of the things that I like to do. Is I like to look at things from a different perspective and maybe add a little different twist to the song, rather than just I'm not when it comes to the gospel or the religious music, I'm not a big praise song kind of person. I'm really not. I like old hymns, but when I'm doing special music or singing, I mean, I guess my philosophy on special music, it ought to be something different than what everybody's heard. So that actually was the inspiration for most of the music on there. Is I was asked to sing, and I wanted to say something different than what I was finding in the music that was available. So I wrote a song. I always say it was like God and I sat down and wrote a song, and that's about how it went. Most of those songs that are on that CD were probably written in an hour's time. once I finally got sat down and did it. But just all of a sudden something would come to me, and I say it's God's inspiration, and away we went. Had a song about an hour later.
We talked about the challenges of practicing law. In what ways does your Christian faith impact your law practice?
Well, as I explained, there's people that come to you and they're not in a good place in life. Or in a situation now where instead of doing defense work, now I do prosecutor work. And there's a tremendous amount of power, to be honest with you, that comes from that particular position. And it's easy to look at people that have done something wrong and forget that really, really good people can do some horrendous things. And you need to step back and look at it and try to, in my mind, I use my faith to kind of, and sometimes I really do say, what would Jesus do right now? Because you have this person in front of you and you know that they're not normally the person that committed a horrific crime or did something terrible. And you want to find out why. And part of what you want to do is not just punish a person, because that's probably the easiest side of this job, to do that. You can just take that route all the time. But I try to look at it, and I know judges do as well. You try to look at it from, well, what can we do to protect everyone else, which we have to do, but what can we do to help this person? Because sometimes that's what they need more than anything. Locking people up doesn't always solve the problem. There are times when it's necessary. But like I said, a lot of times it's just some really good person has done something has happened in that person's life that caused them to do something really off the wall. And so the challenge is to look at that from the faith perspective and say, what can we do here to help this person? The other side of it is, because I have dealt with a lot of really horrific situations. I've seen some really terrible things in this practice. And faith helps you kind of hand those off a little bit. And instead of carrying that burden all the time, faith allows you to hand it off. So I can sleep at night that way.
In the Bible, after Israel is captured and exiled to Babylon, the Book of Lamentations mourns that the old men have left the city gate, the young men have left their music. The city gate was where legal issues were resolved. And so it seems like even back then, the fortunes of musicians and lawyers were intertwined. I pray, Deach, that you would continue to be effective in both fields.
Well, thank you. I will continue to try.
Thanks, Deach, for talking to me. I invite all of you to join me next week for Your Neighbor's Faith.